The novel Emperor Chen is a male-dominated non-CP novel. The male protagonist, Jingchen, initially went from a genius to a useless material. After being stimulated, he awakened his past life memories and made a comeback, becoming the supreme figure in the mainland. And Shangguan Xi dressed up as the former fiancé A.E. who hurt the male lead, withdrew from the male lead during his low period, and embarrassed him. The most frustrating thing is that her binding system requires her to follow the plot and break off the engagement with the male lead. Shangguan Xi plays the role of a fiancé A.E., appearing to have offended the male protagonist by withdrawing from the marriage, but secretly trembling and clinging to the plot, only waiting for the plot to end and staying away from the male protagonist's carefree life. However, what neither she nor the system expected was that the male lead was also reborn. Start. Jingchen. This Shangguan Xi is different from her previous life. I want to see what conspiracy she has. Later Jingchen. My family is the most beautiful in CC in the world. Jingchen. Bully me, bully CC, kill you. Reading notice, 1. This article features both male and female leads with a double C, featuring sweet and adorable articles 2. The author has a glass heart, and those who don't like it can leave directly without leaving a special message to inform them. 3. Recommended authors concluding article. I have 5 big brothers, and the proud immortal doctor of rebirth, keywords of the novel. After dressing up as a canon fodder female supporting character, he is targeted by the male lead without a pop-up window. After dressing up as a canon fodder female supporting character, he is targeted by the male lead for downloading the complete TXT series. After dressing up as a canon fodder female supporting character, he is targeted by the male lead for reading the latest chapters. Chapter 1. The Unmarried Wife of the Male Lead. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. The Unmarried Wife of the Male Lead. Xuanwu Continent. Nanlizu. Blue City Lord's Mansion. Deep in the exquisite and atmospheric courtyard, in the study of the Lord of Blue City, 2 people are sitting quietly across the pear blossom wood table. The tea smoke curled up on the table, and the mist made one's face look somewhat ethereal. The Lord of Blue City, Shangguan Xi, looked at his daughter Shangguan Xi sitting across from him, his eyes exploring. Seeing that Shangguan Xi's smile was about to freeze, he lowered his eyes and picked up the tea cup on the table. Seeing Shangguan Xi finally stop looking at him, Shangguan Xi breathed a deep sigh of relief in his heart. God knows how fast her heart beats in the face of Shangguan Xi's sharp gaze. If it weren't for her strong restraint, she might have run away long ago. Shangguan Xi felt very forced. She was originally an ordinary second-generation wealthy person who would read novels whenever she had free time. Otherwise, she would travel and go to the mall to buy things. Life was so comfortable. Not long ago, a friend recommended a popular non-CP male frequency book, Long Ao Astronomy. Due to the author's good writing style and well-structured plot, he stayed up late to watch it. When I saw that there was a girl with the same name as her in the book, I wrote a few words, but I didn't expect to wake up wearing this girl. The female lead Shangguan Xi is the fiancé A.E. of the male lead Jingchen. When Jingchen was a genius, Shangguan Xi was relatively satisfied with this marriage. However, this is a useless counterattack article. The male lead has transformed from a genius to a useless material, and Shangguan Xi cannot tolerate the gossip of the people around him. He forced his father to withdraw from the marriage between the 2 families through death. Due to this incident, Jingchen was stimulated and unexpectedly awakened his past life memories, embarking on a path of rebellion. This incident, along with Shangguan Xi, became a thorn in Jingchen's heart. However, due to the relationship between the 2 families, he did not take action against Shangguan Xi. Shangguan Xi was killed by one of his later admirers, and his death was not very good. Now, this cannon fodder has become hers. Moreover, just yesterday, the original owner had already proposed to Shangguan Xi to divorce. As soon as she thought about the tragic fate of the female supporting role in the original work, she instinctively wanted to run to Shangguan Xi and say that she would not withdraw from the marriage. But, a system suddenly appeared in her mind, which said that if she couldn't withdraw according to the plot, she would be erased. She doesn't know how her body is in this world, but being able to travel through the book indicates that her body in this world may have died. In this way, she completely dares not take risks. If she really gets erased, she will really die. But she also doesn't want to offend the male lead. Knowing that the male lead would eventually become the supreme ruler of the mainland, she naturally had to hold on to his thigh. The task of the system had to be completed, and after thinking for a whole night, she finally came up with a method, which is why she is now in Shangguan Xi's study. "Xier, do you mean to announce to the public that you and Jingchen's child have divorced, but you are not actually?" Shangguan Xi put down his teacup, breaking the silence in the room and asked. "That's right." Shangguan Xi straightened his body and nodded, with a faint smile on his lips. "Since you don't really want to divorce Jingchen's child, why bother with fake divorce?" Shangguan Xi looked at Shangguan Xi with sharp eyes and asked in confusion. Shangguan Xi's face remained unchanged, and he spoke slowly with Shangguan Xi's gaze. "Dad, as you know, our marriage has attracted a lot of attention. He used to have great talent, and even if others had any thoughts, they could only keep them in their hearts. But now it's different. He hasn't improved his cultivation for so many years, let alone outside. I heard that even within the Lu family, there have been some discordant voices. Those people used to dare not, but now they are openly and secretly troubling him. Moreover, those who want to marry us are eager to let him have trouble and replace him. In the past year or two, his situation has not been good. If he announces his withdrawal to the public, he will not become a threat to those people, and they will naturally not turn their attention to him, so that he can bear less pressure. As we all know, we are not really withdrawing, and the relationship between the two families will naturally not be affected, which is good for both of us. This matter was also carefully considered by Shangguan Xi. In the original text, it was mentioned that since Lu Jingchen was no longer a genius, he had been ridiculed by many people due to his status as Shangguan Xi's fiancé, and even secretly assassinated. After the two families withdrew, those people lost interest in Lu Jingchen and did not trouble him again. Of course, the termination of the engagement was fake, and when Lu Jingchen found out, he would not hold a grudge against them. When Lu Jingchen's cultivation improved, she would find another opportunity to propose a divorce, and he would not feel that she looked down on him anymore. It's not up to us the final say, and we still need your Uncle Lu and their consent. After all, even if it's fake, it's unfair to Jingchen. Shangguan Xi didn't think that Shangguan Xi should be because of this reason, so he gave Shangguan Xi a slightly unexpected look. Dad said that you still need to discuss this matter with Uncle Lu. Shangguan Xi nodded happily. Since that's the case, we'll set off for Jingchen tomorrow to inquire about the opinions of the Lu family. He drank the tea in one gulp and placed the cup on the table. Shangguan Xi stood up and looked at Shangguan Xi, clapping the board. The heart that Shangguan Xi had been holding on to finally returned to its original place, where Shangguan Xi couldn't see. The whole person relaxed. Shangguan Xi was convinced by her, and now it's up to the Lu family. I hope the Lu family can agree. Otherwise, she will only be able to offend the male lead. After all, the task of the system is related to her life and death. Jingchen. Lu Jia. The Lu family is second only to the Lord's mansion in Jingchen and occupies a large area. Most of the Lu family members live together. The most luxurious courtyard among them is the courtyard of Lu Wenchang, the head of the Lu family, and the courtyard next to his yard is the residence of his only son, Lu Jingchen. The decoration in the room is not particularly luxurious, but it exudes delicacy everywhere, and one can also see the owner's personality. At this moment, a young man was peacefully sleeping on the carved bed in the room. The young man looked around 16 or 17 years old, with fair skin and a faint luster, like top-quality white porcelain. His appearance is delicate but not feminine, His eyebrows are thick but not pure black in color. Although his eyes are closed, he can see the slender and curly eyelashes. Under the high bridge of his nose, his pale pink lips are slightly pursed. He seems to be in a bad mood at this moment, with a furrowed brow and a cold sweat on his forehead, sleeping very restlessly. Suddenly, he opened his eyes, revealing a pair of cold starry eyes. New book upload, please support us. The top 100 comments will have red envelopes dropped. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Lu Jia. You are listening at novel FUL.audio. Chapter 2. Lu Jia. Lu Jingchen stared at the bed curtain above his head, his mind momentarily blank, but soon, those chaotic memories appeared in his mind. He sat up, reached out his hand, pressed the center of his brow, and his gaze was profound, not suitable for this age of maturity. After sorting out the chaotic memories in his mind, he let go and took a deep breath, his expression instantly becoming very complex. He just had a dream. An unimaginable dream. He didn't expect to be reborn. Moreover, this is not his first rebirth. Thinking of the memories of his previous 2 rebirths, he couldn't help but rub his brow again, feeling a bit confused about the reason for his rebirth. If the first time he was reborn was because he was protected by the 9 transformations Shangguan Xi, which gave him the opportunity to be reborn, then what about the second time? He has already dealt with the people who have hurt him before and is at the peak of the mainland. Why is he still reborn? After sorting through those memories again, he still couldn't figure out the reason for his rebirth. His eyes flickered and he decided to let go of this matter first. Anyway, it had already been reborn, and he would eventually figure out the reason. With this thought in mind, he looked around and immediately realized where he was. Combined with the memories of his life in his mind, he quickly understood the time when he was reborn. Rubbing his hand between his eyebrows, his expression froze. He suddenly thought that this time seemed to be the time when he was divorced in his previous life. If nothing unexpected happens, in a few days, the Shangguan family will come and divorce the Lu family. Moreover, because the Shangguan family unilaterally withdraws, the Lu family's face is not very good, and his father is also very unhappy. Thinking this way, he let go and his face turned a bit cold. Although a lifetime has passed and Shangguan Xi and his family have also paid a price in their previous life, he still has some concerns about this matter. Just as he was contemplating this matter, a hurried sound of footsteps suddenly came from outside the door, followed by a knock on the door. "Young master, have you woken up?" His bookboy Lancheng's voice came from outside the door. His voice still carried a hint of innocence and panic, causing Lu Jingchen to pause. He found that there were benefits to being reborn. For example, he would definitely save Lancheng in his lifetime and not let him die to protect him. Releasing his tightly clenched fist, he exhaled and tidied up his clothes while letting Lancheng in. "Young master, the master asked you to go to the door now." After Lancheng came in, he saw Lu Jingchen dressing himself and immediately stepped forward, skillfully helping him dress while saying to him, "What are you doing at the door?" Lu Jingchen asked casually as he put on his clothes. "I heard that the Lord of Blue City has arrived." "The master asked you to go and greet him," Lancheng said while helping Lu Jingchen tidy up his clothes. Upon hearing this, Lu Jingchen's body and eyes flickered for a moment. Unexpectedly, he had just been thinking about his divorce when the Shangguan family arrived. "All right, let's go then." As he was thinking about things, he lifted his foot and walked outside. Shangguan Xi was very fast. After discussing with Shangguan Xi, he arranged the affairs on the Blue City side as quickly as possible, and then took Shangguan Xi to Jingchen. Jingchen and Lancheng are 2 adjacent cities, not far apart. If you take a corner carriage, it only takes about 2 days. At this moment, outside Jingchen, a convoy is slowly heading towards Jingchen. In the exquisite and luxurious carriage, Shangguan Xi lazily lay on the cushion, picked up a purple fruit, put it in her mouth, felt the sweet taste in her mouth, and comfortably narrowed her eyes. Shangguan Xi was not in the same carriage with her. At this time, besides her, there was also her personal maid Qiuying in the carriage. "Miss, do you really want to divorce Lord Lu?" Qiuying had already learned about this from Shangguan Xi's mouth. Seeing Shangguan Xi's good mood at the moment, she asked softly. "It's not a big deal." Shangguan Xi swallowed his mouth and glanced at Qiuying, saying weakly. "His current situation is not very good, and you know those people have been mocking me behind my back, letting others know that we have broken our engagement, which is good for him and me." Qiuying has been following Shangguan Xi for many years, so she naturally knows how those people secretly discuss Shangguan Xi. Shangguan Xi, as the only daughter of the city lord, holds a prestigious position in the Blue City, and her talent is also the best among her peers in the entire Blue City. Her appearance is also top-notch, except for a slightly arrogant temper, which can be said to be very perfect. The ladies of those big families in Blue City don't know how jealous Shangguan Xi is in their hearts. Since Lu Jingchen's cultivation has stagnated, these people have known Shangguan Xi's weaknesses. They have mocked Shangguan Xi's engagement behind her back more than once, saying that even if she has good talent, she must marry a useless person or something like that. Every time she hears these, Qiuying gets extremely angry. The original owner was also very angry, so he vented his anger on Lu Jingchen and proposed to withdraw his marriage. But after the termination of the engagement, she no longer had the black spot of a useless fiancé, and everything was perfect, which was also a good thing for Lu Jingchen. Those who admire Shangguan Xi or want to marry the Shangguan family will naturally no longer pay attention to Lu Jingchen and do not seek trouble from him. Shangguan Xi did not provide much explanation to Qiuying. Although Qiuying didn't quite understand, she didn't ask much when she saw Shangguan Xi's attitude. Soon, the carriage arrived at the city gate. The city gate is about 7 or 8 meters high, and the city wall is green-gray with some mottled marks left over from previous wars. At this time, there is a long queue of people entering the city at the gate, which looks like a large flow of people. As the lord of the Blue City, Shangguan Xi naturally did not need to queue up. After presenting the token of the lord's mansion to the guard at the entrance, the guard immediately respectfully released and the group entered the Blue City unobstructed. When Lu Jingchen and Lan Sheng arrived at the door, the carriage of Shangguan Xi and Shangguan Xi also happened to arrive at the entrance of the Lu family. "Shangguan, it's been a long time since we last met. What brought you here?" Seeing Shangguan Xi, Lu Wenchang immediately welcomed him with a smile on his face and didn't forget to greet him. "I really want to see Brother Lu, isn't Brother Lu welcoming me?" When facing Lu Wenchang, Shangguan Xi was not as distant and polite as before, but very casual and even started joking. How could that be? Whenever you come, I welcome you." Lu Wenchang had already arrived in front of Shangguan Xi, reached out his hand to pat Shangguan Xi's shoulder, and then looked at the carriage behind him, questioning Shangguan Xi, "What is the carriage behind here?" "It's the girl from Shire." Shangguan Xi walked back without a trace and looked at the carriage with a very gentle smile on his face. "Shire, I haven't come out yet to meet Uncle Lu." End of this chapter. Chapter 3. 3 Discussions. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3 3 Discussions. Because of Shangguan Xi's words, everyone's attention focused on the carriage behind them, including Lu Jingchen, who was somewhat surprised. In his memory, in the previous life, only Shangguan Xi was the one who came to divorce from the official family, and Shangguan Xi did not appear. Why did Shangguan Xi and Shangguan Xi appear together in this life? Feeling puzzled, his gaze also fell on the carriage. A delicate woman, resembling a maid, first got off the carriage and stood beside it, waiting for the people inside to come down. The slender jade hand lifted the car curtain, which was very beautiful, with long fingers and neatly trimmed nails, round and full, making people unable to resist wanting to hold it and play with it. Immediately afterwards, the people inside appeared in front of everyone. The woman was wearing a lisue purple ground gold gate on her head, and the tassel swayed slightly with her movements, making her mind unable to resist following suit. Her appearance is very beautiful, with fair skin and two slender curved eyebrows. Her peach blossom eyes sparkle with water, exuding a different charm. Her nose was perky, her pink lips curved into a faint smile, and her light blue skirt outlined her graceful figure. When she landed on the ground, she stood tall and graceful, as if all the light had focused on her, making it impossible to take her gaze away. "Hello, Uncle Lu." She walked slowly to Shangguan Xi's side and smiled slightly at Lu Wenchang. Her clear and pleasant voice continued to ring. "It's been a few years since I last saw you. Xi has become so beautiful that Uncle Lu can't even recognize her anymore." Lu Wenchang regained his senses and looked at Shangguan Xi with a smile, saying, "Jingchen, come over and meet your Shangguan uncle and Xi." When Lu Jingchen saw Shangguan Xi, he was taken aback for a moment. Upon hearing Lu Wenchang's voice, he immediately stepped forward and stood beside him. "Jingchen has met Uncle Shangguan, Xi, younger sister." His voice was slightly low, and he had already suppressed his doubts in his heart. He was very thoughtful in his etiquette towards Shangguan Xi and Shangguan Xi. As soon as Shangguan Xi got off the carriage, he saw Lu Jingchen and had already guessed his identity. At this moment, his identity was confirmed, and his gaze turned around him, unable to help but sigh. Lu Jingchen is truly the male lead. His appearance is much more outstanding than those male celebrities in the previous life of Shangguan Xi. The young man was wearing a navy blue brocade suit, with a straight and upright posture. His skin was cold white and looked on par with Shangguan Xi. His black hair was tied into a ponytail and tied with the same colored headband. Sword eyebrows and starry eyes, standing under the bridge of the nose, with slightly thin light-colored lips, the whole person looks relatively cold, but it does not detract from his handsome appearance. The reason why Shangguan Xi first read this novel was not only because the plot was very enjoyable, but also because she was attracted by the male lead's appearance, because it was completely the one she liked. Just thinking about the fate of her supporting actress, she could only suppress her astonishment. "Jingchen, you don't need to be polite." Shangguan Xi looked at Lu Jingchen with a complex light flashing in his eyes and waved his hand. "Brother Lu, let's go first." "That's right, let's go in quickly." Lu Wenchang suddenly realized and patted his head, then reached out and placed his hand on Shangguan Xi's shoulder, beckoning a few people to move in. "Take care of Xi, Jingchen." As he walked, he didn't forget to turn around and remind Lu Jingchen. Lu Jingchen pursed his lips, responded softly, and then walked to Shangguan Xi's side to guide him. The last time Shangguan Xi came to the Lu family was 4 or 5 years ago. She was a bit unfamiliar with the Lu family, and she didn't know what to say to Lu Jingchen, so she spent the whole journey admiring the scenery of the Lu family. Lu Jingchen walked beside Shangguan Xi and kept observing him. However, the more he observed, the deeper his doubts grew in his heart. If his memory is not wrong, in his past life, Shangguan Xi despised him very much because he had become useless. When he saw him again after his divorce, he didn't even glance at him. But in front of him, Shangguan Xi appeared very calm. He even noticed that the other person had secretly looked at him several times, but there was no disgust in his eyes. Instead, there was a hint of curiosity. He couldn't help but have a deep gaze as he looked at Shangguan Xi, feeling that she seemed to be different from her previous life. Shangguan Xi naturally didn't know that Lu Jingchen had been reborn. At this moment, she looked calm on the surface, but deep down she was feeling. The male lead was indeed as cold as described in the book, cold towards people. Although he had not yet awakened his memory and was still a useless person, he did not give up on himself because of it. He looked even better than the men of his age in Blue City in her memory. Although Shangguan Xi came to talk to Lu Wenchang about fake divorce, he was not in a hurry. Therefore, he had a good conversation with Lu Wenchang and took Shangguan Xi to rest. Lu Wenchang also had some speculations about the purpose of Shangguan Xi's visit, but when Shangguan Xi didn't speak up, he found it difficult for him to calm down. He had to entertain him well and let Shangguan Xi and Shangguan Xi rest first when it was not early. The next morning, after having breakfast, Shangguan Xi invited Lu Wenchang to the study for a conversation, and even invited Shangguan Xi and Lu Jingchen. This matter is also related to the two of them, and they are not too young. They happen to listen and share their opinions. Shangguan Xi glanced at Lu Jingchen and Shangguan Xi and explained to Lu Wenchang. Lu Wenchang's eyes hesitated for a moment before nodding. After the maid placed the tea cup and left the study, anxious Lu Wenchang immediately looked at Shangguan Xi. "Shangguan, what are you here for this time?" Lu Wenchang's gaze was fixed on Shangguan Xi, with a hint of nervousness in his voice that he had not even noticed. "Brother Lu, I came this time to discuss the matter between Xi and Jingchen." Shangguan Xi put down his tea cup and glanced over Lu Jingchen and Shangguan Xi. Before Lu Wenchang could speak, he continued, "Brother Lu, I hope our two families can jointly announce the termination of their engagement." Pop. As soon as Shangguan Xi finished speaking, the teacup in Lu Wenchang's hand fell to the ground, looking at Shangguan Xi with a shocked expression on his face. And Lu Jingchen's expression, although not shocked, was also very surprised because he clearly remembered that in his previous life, Shangguan Xi did not say so. He said he wanted to divorce, rather than both families announcing the termination of their engagement together. He instinctively glanced at Shangguan Xi, who was sitting quietly drinking tea next to him, and felt that this matter should be related to Shangguan Xi. New book upload, please take good care of it, dear friends. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Task completion. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4 Task completion. Shangguan, what do you mean? I didn't quite understand. Lu Wenchang took a deep breath and looked at Shangguan Xi with a burning gaze, displeased. Brother Lu, don't get excited with Jingchen yet. Shangguan Xi had already anticipated the reactions of Lu Wenchang and Lu Jingchen. Let me explain first. Infected by Shangguan Xi's calmness, Lu Wenchang's originally excited heart also slightly calmed down. He took a deep breath and said, "Okay, I'll listen to your explanation." He has known Shangguan Xi for many years and is very clear about each other's personalities. Although he was shocked and even angry at Shangguan Xi's proposal, he is still willing to believe Shangguan Xi. Brother Lu, I'm not really going to terminate the engagement, I'm just releasing a fake message, Shangguan Xi said as he calmed down a bit and breathed a sigh of relief after seeing Lu Wenchang finish speaking. You know, over the years, because Jingchen's cultivation has been unable to improve, the rumors and gossip outside have not stopped, and because of the engagement between his two children, Jingchen must have suffered a lot of difficulties, right? Lu Wenchang followed Shangguan Xi's gaze and looked at Lu Jingchen. Lu Jingchen was thinking about the reasons for the change in things, and his eyebrows furrowed slightly. In the eyes of Lu Wenchang and Shangguan Xi, it was indeed that he had suffered a lot of difficulties. Lu Wenchang's face immediately turned a bit ugly, and there was a subtle hint of heartache and self-blame in his eyes as he looked at Lu Jingchen. Lu Jingchen is the only child of Lu Wenchang, and he has always tried his best to give him the best. However, unlike Shangguan Xi, he is not as meticulous and thoughtful, always neglecting some aspects. When Lu Jingchen encountered problems in his cultivation, he only focused on improving his physical condition, but forgot to care about his feelings. The Lu family is not very united either. He always knew that some people couldn't stand Lu Jingchen, but he believed that with him, those people would not dare to act recklessly. However, he forgot that although those people dared not take action, not everyone could bear some verbal attacks. After all, Lu Jingchen was just a teenager. As soon as he thought about the many grievances that Lu Jingchen had suffered in places he hadn't noticed over the years, Lu Wenchang couldn't help but blame himself. If it is announced to the public that the engagement between the two children has been terminated, at least those who want to marry our family will no longer trouble Jingchen, so that Jingchen's life can be easier. Moreover, it is only announced to the public that the engagement between the two children is still ongoing and has not been terminated. If the two children are older and want to get married, it is also possible. Shangguan Xi said very sincerely, although Shangguan Xi did not say that he will marry Lu Jingchen in the future, he agreed. Even though Lu Jingchen's cultivation progress is slow now, Shangguan Xi is very optimistic about him because he watched him grow up and knew how excellent he was. Upon hearing this, Lu Wenchang's ugly expression instantly recovered, while Shangguan Xi looked at Shangguan Xi with some surprise. As for Lu Jingchen, he was also very surprised. Shangguan Xi knew that Shangguan Xi was very optimistic about Lu Jingchen. In her memory, Shangguan Xi praised Lu Jingchen countless times, but she didn't expect that in such a situation, Shangguan Xi would still want her to marry Lu Jingchen. Shangguan, I understand what you mean. If we announce the termination of our engagement to the public, it should have a significant impact on you and Xi, right? Lu Wenchang was just too excited, but now he calmed down and soon understood that the impact of this matter on both families would not be small. If the two families terminate their engagement, there will be fewer people bothering Lu Jingchen. Similarly, there will be more people seeking Shangguan Xi and Shangguan Xi. After all, both the Shangguan family and Shangguan Xi himself are the objects that many people want to win over. Don't worry at this moment, I will announce to the public that Xi has just retired and should not be engaged again within 3 years. Even if those people want to entangle, I have a way to make them not have a chance. Shangguan Xian's eyes flashed with a glimmer of light as he put down his teacup and said confidently. Lu Wenchang and Shangguan Xi had known each other for many years and knew his methods. He immediately let go of his previous worries and nodded calmly. Lu Jingchen was reborn and knew how powerful Shangguan Xian's methods were, and he didn't feel anything wrong about Shangguan Xian's words. Jingchen, what do you think of this matter? Lu Wenchang had already agreed in his heart, but after all, it was Lu Jingchen's engagement. His gaze fell on Lu Jingchen and he asked. Shangguan Xi and Shangguan Xi were also looking at Lu Jingchen, waiting for his answer. Being stared at by 3 people like this, Lu Jingchen was very calm. Anyway, he had no interest in this engagement. Even if Shangguan Xi said he would withdraw, he would still accept it. I have no objection, he said. Seeing his agreement, Shangguan Xi was the first to breathe a sigh of relief. She was really worried that Lu Jingchen would not agree, and her task would not be completed by then. Both sides reached a consensus, and the next thing became much easier. However, in just one day, the news of Shangguan Xi and Lu Jingchen terminating their engagement spread throughout Jingchen. Shangguan Xian's purpose of coming to Jingchen was achieved. After discussing some matters with Lu Wenchang, he left Jingchen on the same day, while Shangguan Xi was left behind. The explanation given by Shangguan Xi is that the reason why Shangguan Xi was influenced by others before and wanted to terminate her engagement with Lu Jingchen was entirely because she did not understand Lu Jingchen and his excellence. She asked Shangguan Xi to stay and take this opportunity to get to know him better. Regarding Shangguan Xian's statement, Shangguan Xi was speechless, but Shangguan Xi had a tough attitude and could only stay in the Lu family. After seeing off Shangguan Xi, Shangguan Xi returned to the courtyard prepared for her by the Lu family. This yard is next to Lu Jingchen's yard, and the decoration inside and in the room are very gorgeous, and it is very suitable for girls, which shows that Lu Wenchang is very interested in her. After a moment of emotion, Shangguan Xi perked up and contacted the system in her mind. After the news of their termination of the engagement was spread, the system notified her that the task was completed. However, she didn't have time to check at that time, so she happened to have time. She summoned out the system panel and breathed a deep sigh of relief when she saw Main Task 1. Termination of marriage with Lu Jingchen. Completed, on it. System, since the task is completed, won't I be erased? Shangguan Xi asked nervously. She finally had a chance to be reborn and didn't want to die too early. Congratulations host, once the main task is completed, the reward for the task is one spirit washing pill. The electronic sound system starts and answers Shangguan Xi's question. After receiving a positive response from the system, the life crisis was resolved, and Shangguan Xi's heart, which had been holding on all along, completely relaxed. Only then did he have the time to see the rewards given by the system. The spirit washing pill is. She was about to ask the system when a paragraph from the original text suddenly came to her mind, and her eyes widened. It shouldn't be the one I thought of, right? I'll go, it's amazing. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Go shopping. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Go shopping. The original work once mentioned the elixir Shilling Dan, which is described as a very magical elixir. There are two types of cultivators in the Xuanwu continent. One type is martial arts, which focuses on physical cultivation, with the body being their weapon. The other type is spiritual cultivation, which focuses on cultivating spiritual power. To cultivate spiritual power, one needs to have a spiritual root, which is divided into 4 levels from low to high. Low, intermediate, advanced, and heavenly. The level of the spiritual root determines a person's talent. And the spirit washing pill is a type of pill that can enhance the level of spiritual roots. In the original work, Lu Jingchen was fortunate enough to obtain a spirit washing pill, which elevated his spiritual roots from advanced to heavenly level. This was also the reason why his cultivation speed increased later on. Shangguan Xi never expected that the reward given by the system would be such a powerful pill. However, thinking that if she couldn't complete the task, she would be killed, she suddenly felt that the reward of the spirit washing pill was nothing more than that. She took out the spirit washing pill from the system space, and a faint medicinal fragrance suddenly appeared in the air. Just smelling this medicinal fragrance, she felt a boiling sensation of spiritual power in her body. Suppressing her excitement, she took a deep breath and swallowed the spirit washing pill directly. The pill melted at the entrance, and she only felt a warm current flowing into her body from her mouth, with a faint warmth emanating from all over her body. However, this comfortable feeling did not last long and turned into a piercing pain. Her body felt as if it had been reorganized, with pain emanating from every bone and every inch of muscle. She gritted her teeth, had a fierce expression, and her forehead was covered in cold sweat. Due to the excessive pain, her body even had some spasms. It seemed like a long time had passed, until her consciousness became somewhat lax. After the bone-piercing pain finally passed, she was as if she had been pulled out of the water, and her face was as white as paper. She didn't even have time to feel the changes in her body, so she lost consciousness and fainted. The next morning, Shangguan Xi was awakened by the sound of birds coming from outside the window. She looked at the bed curtain above her head in confusion for a few seconds before recalling what had happened last night. Excited, she sat up directly and frowned when she saw her clothes wrinkled. Suppressing the thought of not wanting clothes, she closed her eyes and first felt the condition of her body. After not noticing any problems, she tried to practice again and found that her speed of absorbing spiritual power was more than twice as fast as before. She is currently a 5-star spiritual master. Based on her previous cultivation speed, it will take her another 6 months to become a 6-star spiritual master. However, at her current speed, it may not take her 2 months. Sure enough, the better the talent, the easier it is to cultivate. As soon as she finished sighing on her side, there was a knock on the door outside the door, and then the voice of Qiuing rang out. "Miss, have you woken up?" Shangguan Xi opened his eyes and saw the wrinkled middle coat on his body. He curled his lips and felt somewhat disgusted with his current appearance. "Qiuing, don't come in yet. Go and boil me some water, I need to take a shower." She had a slight cleanliness fetish, and the thought of sweating so much last night and not taking a shower would make her feel uncomfortable. Although Qiuing didn't understand why Shangguan Xi had to take a shower early in the morning, as Shangguan Xi's maid, she only needed to obey orders and immediately turned around to find the servant of the Lu family to boil water for Shangguan Xi. After Shangguan Xi took a shower, tidied up, and finished breakfast, it was already an hour later. "Miss, Lord Lu is outside. I said I have something to ask you for." Qiuying just went out and will immediately report the matter of Lu Jingchen at the door to Shangguan Xi when she comes back. Shangguan Xi was drinking tea when he heard Qiuying's words. Holding the teacup, he paused and a bunch of question marks flashed through his mind, but his face remained calm. He put down the teacup and looked at Qiuying. "Can you help me invite Lu Jingchen in?" She paused for a moment and stood up directly. "Forget it, I'll go out and find him myself." As she spoke, she walked outside, and when Qiuying saw her, she quickly followed behind her. As Shangguan Xi walked, he thought about what Lu Jingchen wanted from her. According to the original timeline, at this point, Lu Jingchen should have already remembered his past life as a master of the righteous path. However, she did not actually withdraw this time, and Lu Jingchen was not stimulated. She couldn't say whether he would awaken his memory. "What if you don't wake up?" She paused imperceptibly in her footsteps, then denied the possibility, because in the original work, the matter of divorce was actually just a stimulus. In fact, the reason why Lu Jingchen awakened his memory was because the fragments of the divine tool Xian Yuan Ding in his body had absorbed enough energy, and this would not change because of the divorce. With this thought in mind, she had already walked to the door and saw Lu Jingchen with his back to hers. Jingchen is currently in summer, and the weather is nice today. The place where Lu Jingchen stands is facing away from the light, and the sunlight seems to have coated him with a layer of golden edge. His coldness has been softened, making him look more attractive than before. Especially when he turns around and looks straight at you, it will make you feel like you are his whole world. Shangguan Xi. Lu Jingchen didn't know the thoughts in Shangguan Xi's mind. He saw Shangguan Xi come out and instinctively took a step forward. "Lu Jingchen, do you have anything to ask me for?" Shangguan Xi suppressed the palpitations in his heart and walked to a step away from Lu Jingchen, standing still, looking up slightly and asking. "Well," Lu Jingchen nodded, "I'll take you out for a walk." After returning yesterday, Lu Jingchen carefully considered Shangguan Xi's performance and felt that there was a gap between Shangguan Xi in this life and the Shangguan Xi in his memory, which made him doubt Shangguan Xi's identity. At first, he thought that Shangguan Xi might be reborn like him, and it was very likely that she did not withdraw from him because she saw his achievements in the previous life, but this speculation was denied by him. Because if Shangguan Xi really valued his achievements in his previous life, she wouldn't propose to publicly announce the termination of their engagement. As long as she didn't speak up, Shangguan Xian and Lu Wenchang wouldn't voluntarily terminate their engagement, which would be more advantageous for her. But he couldn't explain Shangguan Xi's current behavior, so he decided to have more contact with Shangguan Xi, so that he could know the changes in Shangguan Xi's body and perhaps find the reason for his rebirth. So, that's why there was such a morning release. Shangguan Xi didn't know at this moment that Lu Jingchen had already become suspicious of her. Although she was puzzled why Lu Jingchen invited her to take a stroll, she soon felt that it might be because Lu Wenchang had asked Lu Jingchen to do so. After all, the two old fathers still wanted them to get married. "Okay, should we go now?" To be honest, although I don't want to get involved in Lu Jingchen's story, Shangguan Xi is still willing to establish a good relationship with him. Lu Jingchen nodded, then turned around first and walked forward with his foot raised. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. He wants to scam you. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. He wants to scam you. Shangguan Xi has been traveling through the past few days and has been resolving the matter of engagement. She has not yet taken a good stroll through the streets and is still very curious about ancient cities. As one of the 7 major cities in Nanli Prefecture, Jingchen is very large and bustling. As a result, there are many people in the city, and the streets are very lively. In addition to various shops, there are also people setting up stalls on both sides of the street, and various sounds of selling are constantly heard, with a strong atmosphere of fireworks. Shangguan Xi followed behind Lu Jingchen, looking at her in a daze. If it weren't for Chiu Ying accompanying her, she might have separated from Lu Jingchen long ago. However, although it was lively and she was very happy to see it, it was still summer and a bit hot in the sun. Shangguan Xi had already sweated a lot, but fortunately she didn't put on makeup when she went out, considering the weather. Otherwise, if she had put on makeup now, it wouldn't be too beautiful. Lu Jingchen, it's so hot. Let's find a place to rest and eat something. She walked up to Lu Jingchen, tugged at his sleeve, tilted her head slightly, and looked at him expectantly. The sleeve was pulled and Lu Jingchen's body stiffened for a moment. He looked expressionlessly at the hand that Shangguan Xi had placed on his sleeve. Shangguan Xi followed Lu Jingchen's gaze and saw that his hand was actually gripping Lu Jingchen's sleeve. He was immediately startled, panicked, and released his hand, then looked at Lu Jingchen with a slightly pleasing expression. Lu Jingchen pursed his lips, glanced at Shangguan Xi's forehead, turned around, and walked towards the side. Shangguan Xi followed behind Lu Jingchen and was about to speak when he looked up and saw a plaque next to him. He noticed a restaurant next to him and immediately shut up, but his expression looked a bit cheerful. Just now, when I saw Lu Jingchen's appearance, she thought the other party wouldn't agree. I didn't expect the male lead to look cold, but it's not completely unfriendly either. Ice cubes were placed in the restaurant, and a formation was probably set up. The temperature was much lower than outside. As soon as Shangguan Xi entered, he took a breath and felt like he had come back to life. This restaurant has a good reputation in Jingchen, and it happened to be lunchtime. The first floor was already filled with people, and many people's eyes fell on Lu Jingchen and Shangguan Xi. Some of them may have recognized Lu Jingchen and whispered to the people around them. The gaze upon them was not particularly friendly, and Shangguan Xi was not a particularly sensitive person. They all felt something was wrong around them, let alone Lu Jingchen. The voices of others were faintly heard in her ears. Shangguan Xi quietly looked at Lu Jingchen and saw that his face was calm, as if not influenced by those people. She couldn't help but give a thumbs up in her heart. Lu Jingchen's emotional management was indeed powerful, and she thought she couldn't do it. Is there still a spot in the elegant room on the second floor? Lu Jingchen glanced at the lobby and turned to the shop assistant who had just arrived next to him, asking in a deep voice. Yes, how many of you are here? The waiter paused for a moment and immediately reacted, making a gesture of invitation to the three of them, and then leading the way in front of them. At this moment, a group of people came down the stairs and happened to face the three people who were going up, Shangguan Xi, on the stairs. Those people also saw Lu Jingchen and Shangguan Xi, and were all stunned for a moment. Yo, isn't this our genius, Mr. Lu? Why didn't Mr. Lu practice at home today and instead came outside? The young man in the white brocade robe looked contemptuously at Lu Jingchen and spoke with a strange expression. Wenye, you also look up to him too much. Who wouldn't know that he is a waste and still cultivates? It's estimated that he will still be a 5-star spirit scholar after 3 more years of cultivation, which is a waste of resources. The blue-clothed boy beside the white-clothed boy sneered at Lu Jingchen without mercy. Jing Yun, this is your mistake. Lord Lu is also your cousin. Where should you put his face when you say that to him? The young man in white, also known as Fengwenye, saw that Lu Jingchen's face remained unchanged. His eyes turned and he smiled at the young man in blue beside him. He's not my cousin. Upon hearing Fengwenye's words, the blue-clothed boy Lu Jingyun's face suddenly turned very ugly. He glared fiercely at Lu Jingchen and then moved his gaze away. He's just a waste. He's been practicing for so many years and he's still a 5-star spiritual scholar. Now he hasn't even had an engagement with the Shangguan family, which is a complete disgrace to our Lu family. When the two were talking, Lu Jingchen's expression remained very calm. However, when Lu Jingyun spoke, he lifted his eyelids and glanced at him, and then didn't even give them a glance, as if he didn't pay attention to them at all. Shangguan Xi had already known that Lu Jingchen had suffered a lot of difficulties before his cultivation was improved when she was reading a book. However, seeing them in the book was completely different from her personal experience in reality. Their words made her feel angry. Surprisingly, Lu Jingchen could still remain unresponsive. Shangguan Xi didn't know whether to praise Lu Jingchen for being able to endure or for having a big heart. Lu Jingchen, what are you doing here? Lu Jingyun felt unhappy when he saw that Lu Jingchen had ignored him. He stared at Lu Jingchen and then turned his gaze to Shangguan Xi. When he saw Shangguan Xi's appearance clearly, a hint of surprise flashed in his eyes. When he realized that Shangguan Xi was coming with Lu Jingchen, a hint of anger flashed in his eyes. Miss, don't you know that this guy in front of you is a waste? You follow her, but there won't be a good day. Shangguan Xi didn't expect to eat the melon on herself. She glanced at Lu Jingyun and then at Lu Jingchen, lowered her eyes, and ignored him. What's going on? Don't you know? This guy just got divorced by the daughter of the Blue City Lord. He's probably trying to deceive you when he's with you. He's best at deceiving girls with his face. Lu Jingyun didn't look afraid of Lu Jingchen at all, and directly said bad things about him in front of him, with a very bad smile. That, Shangguan Xi glanced at Lu Jingchen, who was motionless, sighed in his heart and spoke weakly, do you know who I am? She wore a distant and perfect smile on her face, looking at Lu Jingyun with a very gentle tone. I don't know the name of this girl. Feng Wenye, who had been staring at Shangguan Xi, suddenly descended a step and asked with a gentleman-like demeanor. Although Lu Jingyun was preempted by Feng Wenye, he also poked his head out from behind and stared at Shangguan Xi. Even Lu Jingchen stared expressionlessly at Shangguan Xi, with only a hint of interest in his eyes. I am the Shangguan Xi you mentioned as the one who withdrew from Lu Jingchen's marriage. Shangguan Xi's smile was gentle, but his eyes were very cold. However, I need to correct you. The termination of our engagement is a consensus reached by two families, and it belongs to peaceful termination, not the one you mentioned. It is not right to insult others. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. As you wish. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. As you wish. Shangguan Xi's words fell, and the entire restaurant fell silent for a moment. Although the Lu family and the Shangguan family announced to the public that their engagement had been terminated after consultation, some people, including the Lu family and others, believed that the Shangguan family was not interested in Lu Jingchen, which led to the termination of the engagement. This is also why Lu Jingyun would say that. They never expected that the situation would actually be as announced by the two families to the public, as the two families peacefully terminated their engagement. Otherwise, how can we explain that Shangguan Xi is still staying at the Lu family? And also came out with Lu Jingchen. I heard about many people bullying Lu Jingchen before, but I didn't expect there were people from the Lu family inside. It seems that I need to go back and talk to Uncle Lu carefully, so that he can investigate who bullied Lu Jingchen and help him avenge him. Shangguan Xi glanced lightly at Lu Jingyun and Feng Wenye. When he saw their faces change greatly, his mood immediately improved a lot. She proudly raised an eyebrow at Lu Jingchen in response to his probing gaze. After touching the pride on Shangguan Xi's face, Lu Jingchen paused for a moment, his eyes somewhat profound. He thought for a moment, Shangguan Xi would never have done such a thing in his previous life. Lu Jingyun and Feng Wenye were both surprised and embarrassed at this moment. They never expected that the woman following Lu Jingchen would be Shangguan Xi. Especially for Lu Jingyun, as a member of the Lu family, he didn't know that Shangguan Xi had stayed with the Lu family. Otherwise, he would have guessed Shangguan Xi's identity right away, so as not to fall into such an embarrassing situation. We still need to go upstairs, please don't block the way. Shangguan Xi looked at Feng Wenye and Lu Jingyun, raised his eyebrows, and said impolitely. Feng Wenye's face changed and his breath became somewhat dangerous. Suddenly, a smile appeared on his face, and his gaze crossed over Shangguan Xi and landed on Lu Jingchen. Lu Jingchen, do you only hide behind women? Or have you been a waste for a long time and become accustomed to hiding behind others? He finally tore off his disguise and looked at Lu Jingchen maliciously. Finally, Lu Jingchen turned his head and his gaze fell on Fengwenye. His pure black pupils were devoid of emotion, and when he met his gaze, even though he didn't say anything, Fengwenye felt a palpitating sensation. What do you want? A cold voice sounded, and Lu Jingchen asked expressionlessly. 10 days later, it will be the annual youth competition. Do you dare to participate? Fengwenye suppressed the absurd feeling in his heart and said provocatively. After Fengwenye spoke, Shangguan Xi had an unpleasant feeling. Before she could react, she heard the voices of people around her after he finished the youth competition. If I remember correctly, the first place winner in last year's youth competition was young Master Feng, right? He should already be a 3-star spirit master. Isn't this unfair to the Lord Shanglu? Shu, you're not unaware that the relationship between the Feng family and the Lu family is quite delicate. 3 months later, it will be a once-in-a-decade city lord competition, and the most threatening one for the Feng family is the Lu family. The Lu family leader is so fond of Lord Lu. If Lord Lu has an accident, the Lu family may not be able to compete with the Feng family by then. This Lord Lu is only a 5-star spiritual cultivator, and there is no chance of winning against Lord Feng. This is something that everyone knows, and Lord Lu will definitely not agree. That's not necessarily true. This is a matter of the Lu family's face. If Lord Lu doesn't agree, he won't lose face alone. Amidst the discussions among the people around her, Shangguan Xi also remembered the plot from the original book. She couldn't help but read Emperor Chen, which was about 3 million words long. She read it quickly at the time and didn't remember much of the plot inside. The original work did not mention the youth competition, but instead mentioned the city lord competition 3 months later. There are a total of 7 cities in Nanli Prefecture, named after red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple. The Lord of Blue City has always been a high-ranking official and has been passed down for thousands of years, but the Lord of Jingchen is different. Every 10 years, Jingchen holds a competition, in which the aristocratic families within Jingchen participate. The winning family becomes the Lord of Jingchen. 10 years ago, the Feng family defeated the Lu family and became the Lord. The Lu family has always been resentful of this matter, let alone the fact that the Feng family has been secretly suppressing the Lu family since taking office. If it weren't for Lu Wenchang's good tactics, the Lu family would have been expelled from Jingchen long ago. How could it be like this, making the Feng family afraid? Now that the battle for the city lord is coming, the friction between the Feng and Lu families has also increased. The peace maintained in the past is showing signs of being torn apart. If it can suppress the Lu family, Fengwenye will definitely not miss this opportunity. Lu Wenchang only has one son, Lu Jingchen. If Lu Jingchen is injured, Lu Wenchang will definitely do his best to save him. The Lu family is not an iron fist, and there are several factions inside. Those people will definitely not miss this opportunity to seize power. In this way, the Lu family will be in chaos, and naturally, no family can compete with the Feng family. This principle can be thought of by Shangguan Xi, and it can also be thought of by Lu Jingchen. He gave Fengwenye a deep glance, and just as he thought he wouldn't agree, he suddenly spoke up, "As you wish, I will participate." Upon hearing this, Fengwenye's eyes flashed with a hint of pride, and he looked at Lu Jingchen with a mocking expression. Lord Lu is indeed cheerful, so let's meet young people together. After he finished speaking, he lifted his foot and walked downstairs. As he passed by Shangguan Xi's side, he smiled inexplicably and quickly left the restaurant. Lu Jingchen, are you crazy? If you want to show off yourself, don't fall in love with the Lu family. Lu Jingyun regained his senses at this moment and couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. He stared at Lu Jingchen with wide eyes, his face full of displeasure. I think it's you who lost the Lu family, right? Shangguan Xi leaned slightly and stood in front of Lu Jingchen, looking at Lu Jingyan with full momentum. You and Lu Jingchen are both from the Lu family. Just now, you were rude to Lu Jingchen in front of others. Why didn't you think about the reputation of the Lu family at that time? Also, as the Lu family, you knew about the relationship between the Lu family and the Feng family, and had a close relationship with Feng Wenye. Shouldn't you and Feng Wenye be plotting something? Faced with the powerful Shangguan Xi, Lu Jingyun hesitated for a moment. When Shangguan Xi mentioned that he was plotting with Feng Wenye, his pupils tightened for a moment and quickly returned to normal. However, his eyes were slightly blurred and he dared not meet Shangguan Xi's gaze. Humph, anyway, if you lose, don't say you're from the Lu family. He threw down a sentence viciously and then rushed over from Shangguan Xi and Lu Jingchen, looking a bit disappointed and fleeing. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Auction Fair. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Auction Fair. Lu Jingchen, are you really going to participate in that youth competition? Shangguan Xi sat across from Lu Jingchen in the elegant room and asked curiously. Lu Jingchen glanced at Shangguan Xi and nodded. But you. Shangguan Xi originally intended to say that Lu Jingchen's cultivation was obviously not as high as Feng Wenye's, but then he changed his words to, you won't get hurt, will you? Although she knew that Lu Jingchen must have awakened the memories of his past life now, she wanted to elevate his cultivation from a 5-star spiritual master to a 3-star spiritual master within 10 days. Even if Lu Jingchen was very powerful in his past life, she still felt a bit uncertain. Let's go to the auction house after dinner, she thought for a moment and suddenly suggested. What are you doing at the auction house? Lu Jingchen felt that he couldn't keep up with Guan Xi's thinking. Didn't he just worry about him getting hurt? Why did you suddenly mention going to the auction house? What is the connection between these two? Go buy a pill to improve your cultivation, Shangguan Xi said without hesitation. My dad left me a lot of spiritual coins when he left. She looked up slightly and said proudly. The common currency in the Xuanwu continent can be divided into 4 types from small to large. Spirit beads, spirit coins, amethyst coins, and black crystal coins. The exchange rate between each 2 currencies is 1,000, and a grade of pill and equipment is usually around 10 spirit coins. Shangguan Xian has always been fond of Shangguan Xi and has given her a considerable amount of pocket money. However, the original owner was also quite extravagant in spending money and did not save anything over the years. It was only this time that Shangguan Xian left Shangguan Xi at the Lu family, worried that she would not have the money to spend, that he gave her a lot of spiritual coins. Upon hearing Shangguan Xi's words, Lu Jingchen paused as he served tea and glanced at him with some surprise. He didn't expect Shangguan Xi to want to buy him pills. He once again realized that the Shangguan Xi in front of him was completely different from the Shangguan Xi in his memory from his previous life. However, as for the pill, he really doesn't need it. As a top alchemist, as long as his cultivation is sufficient and he is given medicinal herbs, he can refine any pill. Moreover, the quality of the pills he refines is very good, with almost no impurities. He really doesn't like the pills he sells at auctions. You don't need to buy me pills, I don't need them, he thought directly to Shangguan Xi. Ah! Shangguan Xi was taken aback for a moment, and she quickly realized that Lu Jingchen himself was an alchemist. As mentioned in the book, the pills he refined were better than those of ordinary alchemists, and indeed did not require any other pills. But I want to go to the auction house to see. She clasped her hands together, her watery eyes widened with anticipation as she looked at Lu Jingchen, her eyes filled with longing. After a moment of silence, Lu Jingchen withdrew his gaze and rubbed his nose with his right hand. He spoke slightly unnaturally, let's finish our meal. Okay, Shangguan Xi cheered softly, then let's eat quickly. Seeing her withdraw her gaze, Lu Jingchen instantly felt relieved, although he didn't even know why he had been a little nervous just now. There were only 3 of them, and they didn't order much food. They were quickly served, and both of them adhered to the habit of eating silently, quickly finishing their lunch. Let's go. After leaving the restaurant, Lu Jingchen looked aside and quickly chose the direction. He turned around and said to Shangguan Xi. Shangguan Xi nodded and followed behind Lu Jingchen. Qiuying was taken off by her and had already gone shopping on her own. Now, Xi and Lu Jingchen were left alone. The auction house was not far from the location of the restaurant, about 300 to 400 meters away, and the 2 of them quickly walked to it. Those who can enter and exit the auction house are basically wealthy, and most of these people are wealthy families in Jingchen, which means that many people know Lu Jingchen. Previously, the news that Lu Jingchen was going to participate in a youth competition had already spread in Jingchen under the strong promotion of FUL. At this moment, these people saw Lu Jingchen with a hint of curiosity and sympathy in their eyes. Lu Jingchen has a great reputation in Jingchen, and almost everyone knows that the genius of the Lu family in the past has become useless. Everyone is also very aware of his cultivation. In the eyes of most people, agreeing to participate in a youth competition with FUL is just seeking death. His cultivation is far from FUL's. Even if Lu Jingchen's talent recovers, it is impossible to catch up with FUL within 10 days. Lu Jingchen naturally felt the gaze of these people, but he had already felt these gazes once in his past life, and his inner strength was strong. He didn't care much about what others thought of him, so he directly ignored these gazes. Shangguan Xi, who was beside him, also felt the gaze of those people. When she noticed that Lu Jingchen didn't pay attention, Shangguan Xi once again gave him a thumbs up in her heart. Not to mention anything else, just this state of mind of Lu Jingchen cannot be compared to ordinary people. Truly deserving of being able to become the supreme ruler of the mainland. As the owner of the Lu family, Lu Wenchang had his own private room at the auction house. When Lu Jingchen usually came to auction at the sales venue, he was mostly there. Now that he brought Guanxi with him, he naturally went directly to the private room. After they sat down inside, an attendant immediately brought tea and dim sum. They were on the 2nd floor, facing the auction table. They had a good view and could clearly see the scene on the auction table. There is not a daily auction in the auction house either. They were lucky enough to happen to have one. At this time, the auction had just begun, and a booklet recording the items being auctioned was also sent to the private room. Let's see what you like. Lu Jingchen threw the booklet to Shangguan Xi and said calmly. Shangguan Xi took it over and opened it carefully. Most of the items auctioned off today were not particularly precious, belonging to uncommon but also visible items. She was eagerly disappointed that there were no pills that could quickly improve her cultivation, only a few medicinal herbs. Flipping back, the final auction item caught her attention. Is today's finale auction so mysterious? It's surprising that there's no introduction on it. She put down the brochure and looked curiously at the auction table. Lu Jingchen looked over in confusion, took the booklet from her hand, and flipped through it to the end. Sure enough, he saw that it did not introduce what was being auctioned off, but left a suspense. He pondered in his mind for a moment, but did not have this memory in his memory. He thought that the auction might not be an important thing, so he casually placed the booklet on the small table at hand. The items below were presented one by one, and during this period, Shangguan Xi also made 2 or 3 purchases. The items she bought were also quite casual, with one hairpin being her favorite, while the others looked quite appealing and not too expensive. Soon, we arrived at the last auction item. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the last auction of the day. The auctioneer lifted the red step covering the plate and revealed the auction item below. Lu Jingchen casually looked over, but when he saw clearly what it was, he couldn't help but tighten his pupils and froze in place. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. 9 Fragments. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 99 Fragments. This item should be a fragment of a heavenly level treasure with strong energy fluctuations on it. Our appraiser has not determined what material it belongs to, but a treasure like this also has an induction between fragments. If we can obtain this fragment, we may be able to find other fragments, so we may have a heavenly level treasure. The auctioneer was still talking incessantly about the items on the tray, but Lu Jingchen didn't pay attention to them at this moment. All his attention was focused on the fragment. That's not the heavenly treasure fragment mentioned by the auctioneer at all, but the fragment of the divine artifact Zhezhuan Qianquan Ding that Lu Jingchen obtained before his reincarnation. It was precisely because he obtained the 9 transformations Qianquan cauldron that he was hunted down. The opponent was numerous and powerful, and although his cultivation was not weak, he was unable to defeat 4 hands with 2 fists. In the end, he was forced to explode and die. The 9 transformations Qianquan cauldron also became fragments in the explosion. The reason why he was able to reincarnate was because his soul was protected by the fragments. In his memory, he had to wait until a year later in his previous life to find his first fragment. He didn't expect that he would just accompany Shangguan Xi to an auction and come across a fragment. He took a deep breath, suppressed his excitement, glanced at Shangguan Xi, picked up the tea cup on the table, and took a few sips before finally calming down. Shangguan Xi was still listening to the auctioneer's introduction of the fragments and did not find anything wrong with Lu Jingchen. She looked at the fragments on the tray, and did not know why. She felt that this thing was familiar, but she could not remember where she had seen it. She shook her head in her heart to dispel the strange feeling in her heart, and lost interest in the fragments. She fell back, leaned against the chair, and turned to get the small dim sum beside her. At this point, the auctioneer has finished introducing the fragments and entered the bidding stage. Although this is just a fragment and it is not yet certain whether one can obtain the heavenly treasure, there are also many people interested, and there are also many bidders. You come and go, Shangguan Xi is interested in it. Until, she heard a sound in her ear, almost spitting out the water she had just drank, barely swallowing it, and coughing until her face turned red. Are you okay? Lu Jingchen looked at Shangguan Xi and saw tears in his eyes and a blush on his cheeks. He was stunned for a moment, then quickly averted his gaze. No, it's okay. Shangguan Xi took a deep breath to calm himself down. Why did you suddenly bid? The auctioneer just said that it could be a fragment of a heavenly level magic weapon, indicating that they are not sure. Maybe it's nothing. If you win, will you suffer a loss? Shangguan Xi looked at Lu Jingchen with some confusion, then at the fragment. He couldn't believe that Lu Jingchen, who had just turned a blind eye to everything, would be interested in such a potentially deceitful fragment. It's okay, I think this fragment is related to me, Lu Jingchen explained with difficulty, then turned his head, stared at the fragment below, and would participate in the bidding every few moments. Shangguan Xi was shocked by Lu Jingchen's answer. She took a strange look at Lu Jingchen, fell back in her chair, and sat beside her to eat dim sum quietly. Finally, this fragment was bought by Lu Jingchen for a price of 600 spirit coins. As a result, Lu Jingchen borrowed 100 spirit coins from Shangguan Xi, but had no choice. He had just been reborn and had not yet achieved financial freedom, and his pocket money was not much more than Shangguan Xi's. The auction came to an end, and Lu Jingchen and Shangguan Xi went to pay together. Soon, he had a rectangular metal box in his hand, which contained the fragment. Suppressing the excitement in his heart, Lu Jingchen appeared very calm. After receiving the answer that Shangguan Xi didn't want to wander anymore, he went back to the Lu family with Shangguan Xi. After sending Shangguan Xi back to her yard, Lu Jingchen also returned to his own yard. As soon as he placed the box in the study, the sound of the butler came from outside. Uncle Lin, why did you come here in person? Lu Jingchen asked in confusion when he saw the steward Lin standing outside. The master asked me to invite the young master over. Lin, the steward of the Lu family and also a confidant of Lu Wenchang, looked at Lu Jingchen from childhood to adulthood and was very kind to him. Just find a maid or servant for this kind of thing. Could you please come and visit? Lu Jingchen also respected the steward Lin, saying as he closed the door, "Let's go." The two quickly arrived at Lu Jingchen's study. After Lu Jingchen entered, the housekeeper Lin personally helped them close the door and then guarded outside the study. "Dad, are you looking for me about the youth competition?" Lu Jingchen walked across from Lu Wenchang, greeted him, and went straight to the topic. Since the matter between him and Feng Wenye has already spread in the city, there is no reason why Lu Wenchang would not know, and Lu Wenchang was so anxious to call him over because of this matter. "Jingchen, my father knows that Feng Wenye and his team have been bullying you outside for the past few years, but the youth are quite different. Your cultivation." Lu Wenchang paused for a moment and sighed, "You are not such an impulsive person in your daily life. Why are you so irrational this time?" After Shangguan Xi mentioned that Lu Jingchen had been bullied in a place he didn't know, Lu Wenchang specifically asked someone to investigate this matter, and he really found out. Because of this, he felt very ashamed of Lu Jingchen and was thinking about how to compensate him. Who knew that Lu Jingchen would actually respond to Feng Wenye's challenge? The Feng and Lu families have been at odds for a long time for the position of city lord. Although they maintain a false image of peace on the surface, they have already engaged in countless conflicts behind the scenes. In recent years, the development of the Lu family has been much better than that of the Feng family. As the competition for the city lord is about to come, Feng Wenye deliberately provoked Lu Jingchen, and the purpose is definitely not pure. The most important thing is that there is a huge gap in cultivation between Lu Jingchen and Feng Wenye. Lu Wenchang was worried that Lu Jingchen would be injured, so as soon as Lu Jingchen returned to the Lu family, he invited someone over. "Dad, as you said, I am not an impulsive person. I dare to promise Feng Wenye because I am confident." Faced with Lu Wenchang, Lu Jingchen rarely explained, "There is something I need to tell you. My cultivation talent has returned. It was only for some special reasons that my cultivation speed slowed down before, but it will not happen in the future. I will be stronger than before." Originally, Lu Jingchen had no intention of keeping this matter from Lu Wenchang, but the matter of his reincarnation and rebirth cannot be said, so he can only vaguely pass it on. The most important thing is to let Lu Wenchang know that he is no longer the same as before, and his cultivation path will be smooth in the future. "Really?" Lu Wenchang's eyes burst into a strong light, and he couldn't help but show a surprised smile at this moment. Has it really recovered? End of this chapter. Chapter 10. 10 Embracing What is the style? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. 10 Embracing What is the style? It's not surprising that Lu Wenchang is so excited. Since Lu Jingchen's cultivation speed has slowed down, and he hasn't made any progress for even a year or two, although he appears calm on the surface, his heart is very anxious. It's not that he has any thoughts about turning Lu Jingchen into a useless person in his heart, but he is very clear that strength is paramount on the mainland, and to put it bluntly, whoever has the big fist is reasonable. This principle also applies to the Lu family. Now that he is here, even if there is any dissatisfaction from the other members of the Lu family, he can only hold it back. Lu Jingchen can still enjoy the best treatment, but there are ups and downs in life, and he cannot guarantee that he will always be there. In this way, Lu Jingchen must have the strength to protect everything he has now, otherwise his fate will not be as simple as being bullied by dogs in a downfall. Previously, he had been trying to find ways to find the reason why Lu Jingchen's cultivation could not be improved, and at the same time, he was also trying to find ways to improve Lu Jingchen's cultivation. He had almost searched for anything he could collect that was useful to Lu Jingchen. Just when he was about to give up, Lu Jingchen actually told him that his talent had been restored, even stronger than before. How could Lu Wenchang not be excited? "Dad, I won't do anything uncertain. This time, I won't let the Lu family lose face." Thinking of Feng Wenye's proud expression, Lu Jingchen squinted his eyes and said seriously. At this moment, Lu Wenchang also calmed down, but his smile couldn't be hidden. He patted Lu Jingchen's shoulder and tears flashed in his eyes. Okay, then Dad will wait, he said. Seeing Lu Wenchang like this, Lu Jingchen's heart was filled with mixed emotions. In his past and present lives, the most important people to him were all Lu Wenchang. Lu Jingchen felt true fatherly love from him and did not recall the time before. The reason why he persisted in cultivation was to not disappoint Lu Wenchang. Fortunately, his memory has been restored and his talent has also returned. In the future, he will only be the pride of Lu Wenchang. By the way, Dad, Lu Jingyun has always had a good relationship with Feng Wenye. The elder may have conspired with the Feng family, so please pay more attention. Thinking of what the elder and his family did in their previous life, a faint light flashed in Lu Jingchen's eyes, and he felt it was necessary to remind Lu Wenchang. Upon hearing this, Lu Wenchang was taken aback for a moment, and a hint of brilliance flashed in his eyes. Don't worry, with my father around, they can't afford any splashes. You just need to practice well. Lu Jingchen nodded and didn't say anything more. Anyway, even if Lu Wenchang can't handle it and he's still here, let alone Lu Wenchang isn't as careless as he appears. His methods, like those of the elder, are probably unbearable. Lu Jingchen was busy practicing, while Shangguan Xi was idle. Although Jingchen had only wandered a part of it, she had no desire to wander alone, so she decided to stay in the yard to practice. However, she only practiced for 2 days before being interrupted by an unexpected guest. Looking at the young man appearing in front of her, Shangguan Xi was very surprised. Feiyun, how could you be here? Shangguan Xi had no idea that cold Feiyun would appear here, and at this moment, he was more surprised than happy. Of course I'm here to find you. Cold Feiyun patted Guan Xi's head, tilted his head, and the dimples at the corner of his mouth were faintly visible. I went to your house to find you. Uncle Shangguan said you were here, so I ran over. Don't you welcome me, Shi. Cold Feiyun looked pitifully at Shangguan Xi, different from Lu Jingchen's handsome appearance. Cold Feiyun's appearance was more delicate, with a doll face that looked like those ancient dolls from Shangguan Xi's past life. He was particularly cute. When he looked at people with his dog eyes, it was difficult for ordinary people to refuse his request. Even though Shangguan Xi and Ling Feiyun grew up together from a young age, they couldn't resist Ling Feiyun's gaze, which made their hearts tremble with adoration. Of course not, I'm just too surprised, Shangguan Xi defended herself by covering her heart. Yes, it's just too surprised. How could I not welcome you? I knew she wouldn't know it. Cold Feiyun's expression immediately changed from dark to clear, and he looked at Shangguan Xi with a smile, ready to go forward and give Shangguan Xi a hug. Cough, did I disturb you both? A slightly cold voice suddenly sounded, and Shangguan Xi and Ling Feiyun instinctively looked over. Lu Jingchen, why did you come over? Shangguan Xi looked at Lu Jingchen in surprise, thinking that he would cultivate until the day of the youth competition. I heard that there are guests at home, I'll come and take a look. Lu Jingchen walked up to Shangguan Xi and glanced at Ling Feiyun, saying calmly. Are you Lu Jingchen? Cold Feiyun kept squinting his eyes as he looked at Lu Jingchen. After Lu Jingchen walked over, he suddenly spoke out. That's right, are you? Lu Jingchen turned to Cold Feiyun and stood face to face with him, squinting his eyes and asking coldly. In his previous life, after Lu Jingchen and Shangguan Xi broke off their engagement, there was not much interaction. He had vaguely heard of Ling Feiyun, but had never seen him before. Moreover, Ling Feiyun was still a teenager, and Lu Jingchen couldn't guess his identity for a while. I am Shi's childhood sweetheart, Ling Feiyun. Ling Feiyun still had a bright smile on his face, but his eyes were very cold, and there was a hint of pickiness in his gaze towards Lu Jingchen. Ling Feiyun and Shangguan Xi grew up together, naturally knowing that Shangguan Xi had a fiancé named Lu Jingchen, and also knowing that Lu Jingchen had become a useless person in recent years. In Lang Feiyan's view, Lu Jingchen was not worthy of Shangguan Xi at all. It was just that they were both young before, and Shangguan Xi was relatively calm about this marriage. He had never mentioned it in front of Shangguan Xi. Not long ago, he heard that the two families had terminated their engagement, and he breathed a deep sigh of relief in his heart. He felt that the Lu family still had some self-awareness and did not continue to fight against Shangguan Xi. At this moment, when he saw Lu Jingchen, he couldn't help but look at him from beginning to end. Although he was a man, he had to admit that Lu Jingchen's appearance was very outstanding. Among his peers, he was definitely one of the best. Moreover, although he had been a useless person for several years, there was no sign of decadence on Lu Jingchen's body. He looked very confident, but if it weren't for him pretending, it would indicate that his inner strength was very strong. Although Lu Jingchen seems to look pretty good, in cold Feiyan's heart, Shangguan Xi deserves the best. As a useless person, Lu Jingchen still doesn't deserve Shangguan Xi. Lu Jingchen naturally felt cold Feiyan's scrutiny, but his attention was not on this, but on his relationship with Shangguan Xi. They were actually childhood sweethearts. No wonder when he came in just now, cold Feiyan was ready to embrace Shangguan Xi. However, even childhood sweethearts shouldn't be so intimate, should they? What is hugging and hugging like? End of this chapter.